Hey everybody, welcome back to the Pete Perspective. My name is Pete and I have a little bit of a story to share with you about a newer designer, a young designer I should say, not new to the game, but actually not new to the trade, but new to the game, if that makes sense. It's a story about a girl named Mayah. If you are a younger designer and if you are trying to figure out how to handle your first couple of commission or contract pieces as a freelancer, or whether you're still in school and just trying to understand like, hey, how to handle somebody reaching out and saying, hey, I love your work, I would love to take on, work with you, and kind of the ins and outs of what that looks like. This video is for you, so stick around. And even if you're not and just want a quick refresher on like, some simple principles and stuff that you can, and tactics that you can use when getting work, this video is also for you. So if you're excited for the video, stick around, give it a thumbs up, and let's begin. I want to share with you guys a story about a designer named Mayah. Now, Mayah does illustration, she does design, she's good at a lot of different things, everything in between those she can do. So Mayah got her first commission piece on Twitch. And so Twitch is a platform where you can obviously stream while you're gaming, and if you don't know what Twitch is, but she streams, she loves playing video games and streaming herself. She also uses, actually I don't know if she streams video games, she might just stream drawings and illustration stuff, which is awesome. I love that you can do all of that stuff on Twitch and have an audience for each specific like area and niche really. And so what's really cool about Mayah's story is that someone reached out to her and said, hey, I love your work and I love your style and I would love to work with you. Can you help me create some graphics for my Twitch stream? And so this particular streamer, really the problem, that's the first thing, is identifying the problem. What is the problem? The problem is that this Twitch streamer wanted new graphics for 2021 as a refresher for her, her stream. She really wanted to give it a fresh new look for the new year, which a lot of people do. And so that's the problem, right? And design and art are different. Art is an expression, whereas design is problem solving. Any sort of art, anything that's expressive, I would say falls into the art category. And then anything that is design really is helping someone or yourself or something solve a problem. Those are the big two distinctions. So the first thing that Mayah did was say, absolutely, I would love to work with you. And how much can you pay? What's your budget? That should be the first question. I love that Mayah asked that question first. But the girl had mentioned that her budget is $75, and like $75. So before a lot of you guys freak out, remember when you were in school. Remember when you were back in college or leaving high school, and so if somebody were to come to you and say, hey, I like what you do, I kind of want to work with you, whether it be a logo or an album art or just any specific project, $75 is a lot of money. It still is for me, at my age and my stage of life. $75 is not, a little bit of money. However, what it takes to get that $75 is the determining factor of whether I want it or not. And so for Mayah, she was absolutely willing. Mayah is in school, like I said, and so she was willing to work, help this girl out for $75, and that's awesome. There's no problem with that at all. If you're taking on work, I would say, your journey, and as you grow as a designer, so should your fees and so should your rates. But I definitely took on small projects like this in college just to make a couple extra bucks here and there. Like, there's nothing wrong with that. I'm not going to hate on anybody for taking on a little bit of money for work. Now, if you're, I should caveat, the caveat is you should be progressively charging more, right? Like as your expertise grow, as your skills grow, so should your rates. And so if you're in your 20s and you're really refining your craft, you should be charging a lot more money with that. And so that's my encouragement as it relates to rates. And this video won't get into rates too much. We'll make a video in the future, so stick around for that at some point. I would love to talk and hash out and discuss like what it looks like to price out projects. So Mayah was excited. She was thrilled. $75 was the perfect amount for her. And so the next thing that she did, she said, yes, I'd love to work with you. Jumped off that call or chat, whatever it was. And then she kind of just said, now what, right? I know that I'm going to do the project. I know how much the project is worth, but now what do I do? And so Mayah calls me, says, hey, Pete, I just got this job. I'm really excited about it, and I'm just not sure what to do next. And I'm not sure what questions I should ask. How should I learn more about the project? How do I do that well and steward this opportunity well? And so just started to ask Mayah questions. I thought, man, this is a great opportunity to kind of show her by modeling what she could do for her client. And so I said, that's awesome, Mayah. Congratulations on that first, commission project, that's a really big deal. You should be proud of yourself. And so what I did was I said, hey, so the first thing I'd love to know is, what kind of streams does this person do, right? Like, what's her channel about? She streams video games. Awesome. What kind of video games? Great, cool. So I'm writing this stuff down. Awesome. So what do you know her demographic? Like, do you know the kind of streamers or the people that watch her streams? Are they girls? Are they boys? Are they, are they middle age? What are some of those demographics of people? And she went on, we just kept asking these questions, right? So does she have graphics currently? What do those graphics look like? When does she need the project completed by, right? What's her budget for the project? All these different things. And what I'm doing is creating a scope of the project. It's really called a scope. And a scope is just, hey, from beginning to end and everything in between, what is this project going to entail? That's the scope. Through that, by the end of the conversation, Mayah came to the conclusion. I said, like, do you kind of see what I'm doing here? I'm kind of framing out, if you're talking about a house, you're framing out what this project is going to be before you start to do aesthetics, before you start to do drywall, before you start to do any of those things. You really need to start with the foundation and then the frame. Through that conversation, Mayah was able to get she took a lot of the questions that I was asking her and kind of wrote those down, and then afterwards called her client and asked her the same questions, was able to get a lot of really valuable and useful information. So 2 weeks go by, and I was wondering, I was like, man, I wonder where that project landed with Mayah. And ironically, she actually texted me and just said, hey, can I call you? And this is 2 weeks past at this point. So I made some time in the evening, jumped on a call with Mayah, and I said, hey Mayah, like, how's it going? How's that project coming along? Have you wrapped it up yet? Whatever. And she just kind of exhaled and said, not really. So here's where we're at with it. And she had provided a first round of concept, and the streamer kind of reached back out and said, hey, I don't know what it is about that. I really like it, but I don't know if it's the right fit for me. Awesome. So Mayah kind of took that. She said 100%, like, I will take this. And this is the tendency of a lot of younger, newer designers, is that they'll take that and assume responsibility for that. Now, I think some of that responsibility is yours because you want to gather as much information up front to really understand the project, right? You don't want to jump into a house. You wouldn't move into a house that was just a frame, right? You would move into a finished house. And so you want to make sure that you have a full understanding of what that framework is and a full understanding of the layout before you don't jump into work. So, Mayah does have to take some of that responsibility. I also think that the client is responsible for giving good feedback and helpful feedback to the designer. And I would argue too that we have to really dig in into what they're saying. So in Mayah's situation, being young, there was a time where I would have just said, oh, I'm so sorry, like that I didn't really hit your expectation. I'll take it back and I'll do something else. And then you give them something else and they're like, no, not that. And you're like, oh, I'm so sorry. And you take it and you do something else because you're just trying to really get to the heart of what they want without pausing to ask, what is it about this that they don't like? And I know that seems really obvious to a lot of you. A lot of you guys are older designers or more experienced, but it's not that obvious in the moment. It's not that obvious when you're first starting off. And so my hope is that with this video, you guys will kind of just slow that process down and really think critically about what your process is beginning to end. Mayah and I, we kind of role played this situation, and what actually happened, I should finish that story, is that they did, I believe, 2 or 3 concepts. And Mayah, at this point, I asked her, how much time have you spent on the project, Mayah? And she said, if I had to guess, 100 hours. What I did was I took 100, and actually no, I said, let's give her the benefit. Let's give your client the benefit of the doubt, and let's just assume that you took 75 hours to do this project, which is an astronomical amount of time, right? And so I did 75 divided by 75, which $75 is the value of the whole project as a whole. Now I said, Mayah, if you wanted to go, you're in school, if you wanted to go and get a part-time job, and I said, hey Mayah, we love you, we think you'd be a great employee here, but we can only really pay you $1 an hour. How do you feel about that? I would imagine that Mayah would say no. And so I think that Mayah at that point was just like, oh, it's, something clicked, and she was like, wow, I'm really working for $1 an hour, and that doesn't make a whole lot of sense. My time is actually worth a lot more than that. Even as a beginning designer with, the knowledge that she has is still worth a lot more than $1 an hour. So through that, we're able to realize she's definitely past the allotted amount of hours that it should have taken. Now, if someone said, hey, $75, can you do this, and that you could do it in 20 minutes, I don't know, that's considerable. That's a good amount of money. If you know you could do the project in a half hour, even an hour, $75 in an hour, it's like, okay, if you need $75, you can take that on. But for her, she was way past. It's called scope creep, right? So we talked about scope earlier, but scope creep is when you have the whole framework, you have the beginning to end, you know exactly what the project's going to entail. But because of miscommunication, sometimes because of not clear feedback, because of things that even the designers are responsible for, you have these creeps, and it keeps creeping, scope creep, scope creep, scope creep. Before you know it, you were working 100 hours on something that really should have only taken you, you know, I don't know, a lot less. And so this is okay. I love that Mayah is just, she kind of fully sunk her teeth into this project as a student, and we just kind of use this as an opportunity to learn and grow, and I love that. She was fully open to embracing everything that we were talking about and applying it, and just saying like, this is a really good opportunity regardless of my first commission, just to learn and grow. And so I would encourage a lot of you young designers, man, give yourself grace. Give yourself just a chance to learn through experience and grow. There's no better, teacher than failure. A lot of the times where I've grown and learned the most is when I've failed. And so it's okay to not have that all figured out. It's okay to ask a more senior level designer, or somebody who has been in the game a little bit longer. Call them up. Do exactly what Mayah did. Call up someone else who's been in it longer and ask them questions. I loved Mayah's posture. Her posture throughout this whole thing was really just to learn and grow, and I think that in and of itself spoke volumes of who she's gonna be in the future as a designer in her career, as whether it be illustration, design, whatever. She has the humility to grow. And so we kind of role played a little bit on the phone. I pretended to be Mayah. I was, obviously like talking to her client, and just kind of said like, hey, blank, whatever her name is, I just wanted to connect with you really quick and kind of talk about the project and where we're at with it. First of all, thank you again for trusting me with such a big project. I know this means a lot to you. So thank you so much for, just allowing me to work in it and on it with you. And it's been a lot of fun up until this point. I wanted to talk about the rounds of revisions and the concepts that I've initially provided. I feel like based off the initial feedback that you gave me, I kind of gave you some, I gave you options here that I really do feel like addressed your problems that you had, right? And so here's this one problem that you had mentioned in the initial phone call. This concept in round 2, I feel like addressed that problem really well. And here's another problem that you had mentioned, and I feel like this specific area of the design really spoke to that issue specifically. And so you can see what I'm doing. I'll break real quick from the role play, but you can see what I'm doing. I'm taking the design and kind of going point by point to the initial problem that they may have presented, and saying, here's how the design addressed that specific issue. So back to role play. And yeah, so at this point in the process, I do feel like I've given you some really solid concepts. I don't want to give up on it yet. I do think that we can complete it. I think that we can end up with something, and I can give you something that you really, really love. And, I would love to take another stab at it. But before I do, I just want to get on the same page with you as far as expectations and pricing and whatnot. With your price point, I do feel like I've kind of maxed out on that right now, as far as the creative work that I was able to provide for you. But again, I'm learning and growing as well, and so I really want to take this opportunity to get you not only get you something that you love, but also to grow and grow as a designer for myself. And so I think we can take another stab at it. I would love to just sit down with you and really dive deep and sink our teeth into some of the feedback. I'm wondering what exactly about these things aren't resonating with you, maybe, or maybe you feel like don't resonate with your personal branding. I'd love to look at the colors. I'd love to look at the layout and some of the graphics that I use, and really kind of digest and talk through some of those things, so that in this next round, we can almost create it together, in the sense that we'll be able to address all those little details. And so, yeah, I would love to continue and try again if you're willing and you're open to it. So how does that sound? That you can see what I'm doing, right? Using words like we can design this together, and you and I together, we can actually get you something that you love. And those are all ways that, as opposed to, it just aligns. With everything that you're saying and the words that you use, you're aligning yourself with the client so that they feel empowered, they feel like you're really in it to help them solve the problem. Now, there are scenarios where somebody is doing scope creep and you need to back out. This is not one of those scenarios though. This is a learning experience for Mayah. And what I told Mayah was, you may have spent way too much time on this already, but at this point, you have learned so much. Let's finish this project. Let's bring it to its completion, and then we can analyze after what could have gone better. And I want to follow up with Mayah, and I will follow up with her to kind of debrief the project, the whole scope of it, and say, what went wrong, what went well, what could you have done better, and how do you know next time what clients are actually going to be a good fit for you? And so I just wanted to make this video quick just to talk about some of those things, because I feel like when I was in college, nobody was telling me how to just be a good designer. Being good design is not just about technicalities and design principles, but it's about business ethics, and it's about being a likable person. Young designers, be likable. Like, people want to work with people that they like. So if you're going to have coffee with someone to learn more about their project, pay for their coffee, ask them how life is going, learn about them, look them up. If they have kids, if they're in a soccer club or a tennis club, like, ask them, find out about things that they enjoy and engage them outside of just the business of the conversation. As it relates to business, you need to learn how to speak the language of business, right? Like, know how to navigate and steer conversations to really, and it's not in a manipulative way, but you're guiding. It's in a guidance way. It's in the spirit of guidance and empowerment. So I've always said that to love design is to love people. And if you love solving problems, great. But at the end of the day, people have problems, and as designers, we're helping people solve their problems. So you really have to develop a heart for people, and that's just my theory. A lot of people feel differently. I'm just speaking, this is the Pete perspective, so I'm speaking for myself here. But I hope this video was helpful. I hope that there was something in it for you specifically. So if you liked the video, please like it, please share it with a friend, subscribe to the channel for more videos like this. I am in the works of processing and chewing on what it might look like to even do coaching sessions for young designers. I would love to teach. I personally love teaching, and I would love to find a way to marry design and teaching. So whether it be coaching sessions or like Skillshare classes or courses. So I don't know what's next for me. I really, really don't. But if you have any ideas or would love or feel like, man, I would love to jump on a call with you and, maybe show you my portfolio or debrief, a project with you, or you'd be interested in a coaching session, let me know in the comments below. Let me know specifically what you're taking away from this video. I'd love to hear back from you. Remember that your perspective matters, my perspective matters, so cheers to a fresh perspective. I'll catch you guys in the next one. Peace.